everyone, it's Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening and Laser Engraving. So I think I got a tip for you guys that you'll like, because you will probably run into this, especially if you follow my recommendations and methods. And this doesn't happen very often. I'm going to say this might happen to me maybe 3 or 4 times a year, but it happens. This knife is a perfect example of it. I want to point it out to you. What happens? Someone drops off a knife, and sometimes you'll be surprised that people are paying $10 to get a knife sharpened that probably didn't even cost them $10. But for whatever reason, they like that knife, they want it sharpened, and you get it, and you go to sharpen it, and it's just not getting sharp. It's starting out just right, and everything that you're doing, you know, as you guys know, I typically like to use 17 degrees for most kitchen knives, and it usually works great for just about everything out there. But if you run into this, here's the issue, and I'm going to show you because I've been through this enough times to know what I need to do to correct this. So I got this knife, and I'm going to just give you a good look at it here. Let me turn the camera around. And it's nothing special. You'll see. It just says professional stainless steel from China. That's all it says on it. Very simple. Looks kind of similar to an inexpensive Henkel's. But what happens is you go to start sharpening this, it feels like it's getting sharp, and then all of a sudden it's dull again. And basically what's going on here is this is just really cheap, not great stainless steel, and it cannot handle a 17-degree angle. So if you run into this, I've also seen it when guys are starting out. I always recommend, like, get, you know, some cheap knives from thrift stores, dollar stores, Goodwill, and practice on those. The only downside of that is you occasionally might come across one of these animals. So here's the problem. I started this on 1x30, doing 17 degrees as I normally do, and I'm gonna just sit here and kind of show you again what I did, and we'll talk through it just in case you guys run into something like this. As you guys know, I normally just raise the burr, right? And I feel it. I got a good burr right there. Great burr. So I'm going to do 2 strokes on the other side. Make sure I got a burr on each side. And there, yeah, I have a burr on both sides, okay? There's a burr on both sides of that knife. I've raised the burr, and it's not a different burr because people always bring that up. It's the same burr. It just gets pushed over from one side to the other. But we go on one side till we raise it, and then we go to the other side. Good burr. All right. So now I'm going to go to my A30 belt and continue sharpening. And that feels good. And it's already starting to do what I hate. That happens with these. It's starting to feel dull. And it's because this is just not good steel. Here, and let's see if this is even cutting. Okay, so not too bad, but it doesn't feel great. I feel a real rough area. It just doesn't feel good. It's actually a little bit better this time around than it was the first time I did it. All right, so now I'll continue. I'm gonna go on here to my 1600 grip belt. And what happened the last time I did this, the knife went completely dull. And it will probably happen again. And this is probably gonna be, yeah, I can actually see it happening. Yeah, it's feeling more dull, and it shouldn't be. Yeah, the tip's not cutting now. It's kind of tearing. And the end's not it actually went more dull. So if you run into what you're seeing right there, like it felt good, it felt sharp, it should be sharp, you haven't even bothered honing it yet. And this one, what happened last time when I honed it, it just got even worse. I'm gonna do that real quick. Sometimes what happens is the entire apex just breaks off and then it goes dull again. So I'm just using my normal procedures that almost always work. And it doesn't feel good. It just feels wrong. And this will drive you crazy if you haven't run into this before. Let's see here. Yeah, it's cutting, but it's just real rough. So let's go take a look under the microscope. Because sometimes you can really see, if you see like a really jaggedy looking edge, it's usually indication that the apex of that knife just sheared off. And I've only had this happen with really cheap knives. Almost never happens with a good knife. Every time I've run into this phenomenon, okay, you can already see the little chips and fissures, and look back here. It just doesn't look, it's nice and straight. It's better, way better than it was, and way better than the second time. But you can already see how parts are already breaking. We see a bunch of little stress factors. Yeah, you can see this it does not look clean. You can see the little chips there. So what's the fix? This fix is pretty simple to make this work the way it should. And just keep in mind, you're not going to run into it very often, but if you run into that knife that you've used your normal methods on, that works on almost every kitchen knife, you did your 17-degree angle, you did your Cubitron belt, you did your A30 and A16, and then the knife feels dull, the way to correct this is to change the angle. All right, and it's that simple. This knife is just cheap metal. It's not a great knife, and it just can't support that angle. So what I'm gonna simply do is up it. 17-degree angle out, and I just grabbed a 20, which for me, for kitchen cutlery, pretty darn high. I don't normally like to go this high, but in this scenario, where you have that knife that just doesn't want to get sharp, or it just keeps dulling as you're sharpening it, that's the problem. We're just talking an edge angle that this steel isn't high enough quality to support, and we're going to just correct it by just giving it a much better angle that will help support and hold that steel up a bit. And it's funny, I've noticed, you'll have customers that they'll think that, the cheap knife that they got is so great because it didn't go dull for such a long time. And a lot of times they don't realize, it also has a really high angle. And, what you or I or someone who's experienced a lot with kitchen knives might really like out of a knife, they don't even know or not even seeing or getting, because they've never had a knife that was at 17 degrees and could withhold that angle. They're using a knife that's always been at 20 degrees. And I'll reprofile this a bit here, and let's see if this does better with the 20-degree angle. I can tell you already, this feels way better. And this is, keep in mind, that's 120 grit Cubitron belt there. And you can see, yeah, this is cutting already better at the 20 degrees. Yep. And I can already tell that this feels significantly better. Yeah, it's holding its bitiness that it wasn't holding before. Let's hone, and then we'll take a look under the scope again. We'll do a little cut test. But I think this will solve this knife's problem. Oh yeah. Yeah, it feels good to me. Yeah, feeling good. All right, let's go take a look under the scope and see if we see something different here. So we're seeing a much cleaner apex there. Much more refined, far less chipping than we saw on that last one. So yeah, definitely much finer. Let's take a look at this tip here. But you can see the difference, like how this is not, this is not a great quality knife. And you can see these, weird striations and kind of big cracks in here. They just shouldn't be there. And on a better quality knife, you're not going to see that. You won't see things like this. All right, so I just wanted to point that out to you. And we got rid of the really messed up. I wish I could have showed you the very first one. I don't think I recorded it, but it was not even straight. And that's another indication. When you put your knife under here, if you don't have a straight apex, you know that it's literally chunks of it are just breaking off, and that's why you're getting that. But this knife feels 1,000% better. It will now cut again, though the customer will probably be thrilled with it. But just wanted you to know that you will run into that situation where you will get these inexpensive knives that just don't want to sharpen. And usually the simplest solution to it is just to up your angle on your edge. Have a great day.